Hey friends, I am fired up today. We're out here at the lake doing open water checkout dives, and we witnessed an instructor with another dive center do 3 standards violations just on the swim test alone. This is unacceptable. What is with this epidemic of standards violations in our industry? Today I'm going to go over why this is harmful for the industry, why this is harmful for the instructor, and why this is harmful for students. Stick with us. So this morning we're out here at the lake, we're doing our dives, and we see an instructor with his open water diver class performing the swim test in the shallow waters here at the lake. Here's the deal. The students were all outfitted head to toe with wetsuits, full wetsuits. Now, what does it say in the standards for a swim test and buoyancy? It says no buoyant aid can be given. So we've got buoyancy. Now these people are not compensated wearing weight belts. They're in full wetsuits. Doesn't matter how buoyant or how negative that student is, they are getting a flotation aid by using a full wetsuit during the swim test. Second thing we discovered is that all the students are wearing masks. Not goggles, masks, full masks. There is a reason why the agencies call for goggles instead of masks. We're talking about protecting airways versus not protecting airways. Sure, if you're wearing contacts, you got goggles on, that's fine. But what we're talking about is you don't put on a full mask and then have a person do a swim test. That's why it's not allowed in the standards. And the third thing that we saw is the students stopping regularly, standing up in the shallow water, hanging on the deck, and then being encouraged to continue on. And so, what do we see there? In the middle of a survival float, tread water, standing up. Continue trying it again. And at the end, a big congratulations that everybody passed the swim test? Are you kidding me? So this again is where we've seen 3 standards violations just at the very beginning of a class in just the swim test. Folks, this is an epidemic in our industry. Standards violations are huge. And if everybody is sitting here thinking, oh, it's certain agencies over another, it's not. Why? How do we know this? Because here's what's going on. In the last decade, we have seen scuba insurance premium rates escalate in the last decade. Why is that? It's because of violations of standards that are leading to accidents. So if an accident happens, that's one thing. But what happens when an accident takes place and there were standards violations with it? That's where we see huge payouts taking place. So the huge payouts, because of standards violations and subsequent accidents, are what are causing our insurance rates in the industry to escalate every year, and they keep going up. We're even seeing brokers going out of business because they're not getting underwriters to insure them. This is an epidemic, and it's got to stop. All right, let's talk about this from an industry perspective. The industry creates minimum standards. Why? Because we don't want the government coming in and saying, here's what you got to do. So what's taken place is, over the years, agencies have gathered together in what's called the RSTC. And the RSTC is a secretariat of ANSI. ANSI is the American National Standards Institute. Now, if you know that name, you've seen it on bike helmets and other things, those are universal standards that are government appointed that say, this is how a bicycle helmet is going to be manufactured. So in the scuba industry, we have taken that route and created a secretariat called the RSTC, the Recreational Scuba Training Council. And they collectively, all these agencies that are a part of the RSTC, get together and create the industry's minimum standards. The RSTC includes our biggest names in the diving industry: PADI, NAUI, SSI, SEI, PDIC, SDI, SNSI, RAID. So all of these organizations are part of the RSTC. Now they all get together and they create these minimum standards, but then they can walk away and they can do their own standards as long as the minimums are met. They can even go higher on their agency standards after that. Now here's the thing. How bold do you have to be as a dive professional to think that you're smarter than the collective hundreds of years of diving experience sitting around the table at an RSTC meeting creating those minimum standards? How bold, how cocky, how arrogant does one have to be to think that you know better about standards than all of the players in the industry or your agency? Come on now. Let's talk about why this harms the instructor. So the instructor that I'm talking about right here is now going to be tainted, that this person is a rule breaker. Now, I am not going to encourage anybody to go to this instructor for any training of any kind. It's not going to happen. So one's reputation is going to be framed on if they violate standards or not. It's as simple as that. The other thing is that I'm about to call out this instructor. Now, when that happens, that instructor is going to get a quality assurance investigation, or whatever the particular agency he's with is going to do an investigation. And they're going to find that these students went through a program, and they're going to find all the standards violations that take place. So now this instructor is risking his own certification credentials in a professional agency. So how does standards violations impact students? It impacts students because, think about this, if that instructor violated 3 standards just on the swim test alone, what do you think the odds are that that instructor is violating standards over the entire course? It's extremely high. It's 100%. Come on now. So the deal is that what is going to take place is that if standards violations continue, that means that training is suppressed. Training is going to come down. There's going to be slipshot areas. There's going to be cutting corners. There's going to be omissions. There's going to be things that the student doesn't get to do in their class because the instructor is cutting standards. Whether because they're lazy, they're intentionally cutting them, or they don't know better. So here's the thing. Is it because the person doesn't know better, or is it because the person's willfully violating standards? Either one of those is unacceptable. What you hear a lot of is, you don't know what you don't know. And so what we see is instructors being approached on this issue. They'll say, I didn't know a wetsuit was a buoyancy aid. I didn't know that a goggle is different from a mask. I know, there are people that literally still call dive masks goggles. Put your goggles on. I hear it all the time. Come on now. So now this individual thinks that a mask is a goggle and that they're interchangeable? So what is this about people don't know what they don't know? Does that mean that they're not getting trained well? That could be the case. So now we've got to look at instructor trainers. Our instructor trainers living standards out. Our instructor trainers pointing to what is important and what is necessary to follow standards. So what is the solution of this? We've got to eradicate an epidemic by going after individual problems. So today, for instance, I have a duty and a right to contact the agency that this instructor is with and report that these standards violations have happened. Now, it doesn't matter what agency that person's with. I don't know this instructor, but I am going to find out the name of this person. I'm going to find out the dive center. I'm going to find out all that information. And then I'm going to go to the training agency and say, this is what I saw. Why do I do that? Because we have to. The industry has to self-police. You see, when instructors violate standards, bad things happen to the students. And when bad things happen to the students, not only does that harm us on the insurance side, it harms the industry as a whole because now we have students being harmed. What does that do when people talk about a negative of our sport? Now, our sport is being harmed because of instructors that violate standards. So it's up to us as dive professionals to call out others that are violating standards in our industry. Because all it takes is for that instructor with that violation of standards to continue with the class, and now you've got a student that has an ear problem. The student's ear problem then gets reported, a lawsuit happens, and then all of a sudden in the lawsuit, the investigation finds out that standards were violated. Now what do you think happens with the payout? The payout escalates, and now this cycle is what we're feeling today in our increased insurance premiums to teach scuba. It's not fair to you and I who are doing the right thing, producing great students, following the standards. It's not fair to us that our insurance rates escalate every year and it gets more expensive to do this profession we love. We have to solve this problem. Agencies have to solve this problem. There needs to be better Q&A. There needs to be better checking and monitoring to ensure that standards are being followed. Because if no one gets hurt in that instructor's class, no one will know that he's violated standards. This is a problem. So there you have it. I'm getting off my soapbox now. Thanks for being a part of this episode. Remember to subscribe. And as always, go beyond the standard. Actually, meet the standard, please. Then go beyond the standard.